my friends, good evening. It's time for the spiritual light. 4 minutes past 9 here in Ireland and in the UK. So it's time for our spiritual light. And today we do have our friend Marcelo Mota. He is one of the founders of the group in Birmingham, in the university in Birmingham. And also they started a new book club. That's a very fancy name for a group, and at least they are gathering every week. They are talking about spiritism. They are studying spiritism. This is what matter. This is what is important. So thank you, Marcelo, for being here with us. As usual, we have Charles and Elsa with us. And today's topic is the Earth in transformation, a spiritual and geological perspective. So we're going to talk a lot about Genesis here. And as I will paraphrase what Elsa said, thank God we do have Charles and Marcelo here. We're going to listen more than talking. But that's why we do have this space for everyone. So good evening, Marcelo. How are you, my friend?
Great, I'm fine, Stevan. Thank you for the invitation. You, Charles, and Elsa. It's great to be here and see you all and have some chat with you and also with our friends that are watching us and hopefully interacting with us with questions, comments, perspectives as well. So happy to be here and to share and discuss anything that's helpful for everyone.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Marcelo. Good evening, Elsa. How are you, my dear?
I am very well, and you? It's always marvelous to be here with Marcelo, that I like so much. I know his work, actually, Dr. Marcelo. And Charles, that's wonderful to be with you again. Charles, we just jumped from another meeting to this one. Me, Charles, and Stevan. And you all, my dear people that are always with us, make your questions, write your comments, and be with us, because today is a topic totally different that I never participate in a study in a topic like that, but I will enjoy for sure. And you all, okay? Share our link with your friends, and that's it.
Good. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Steven. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Indeed, it's very good to be here and to on this topic, which is a topic that we never addressed, but Kardec did address it 160 or more years ago. And let's see how it looks like with today's knowledge of science.
Good. Good. Thank you. So, as I said, today our topic it is the Earth in transformation, a spiritual and geological perspective. And I think this is one of the most urgently relevant Spiritism has to offer to us today. Because we live in a time of extraordinary upheaval, like problems with geological, climate, social, and moral. We do have earthquakes, floods, fires, the collapse of all the certainties, the fracturing of social structures. So a lot's happening in our world today. And not just to this, but to anyone who is paying attention to the world around them, the transformation of the earth itself. So it's important for us to understand what's happening beside us. And Spiritism offers a third perspective, one that does not deny the reality of the crisis, but locates it with a much larger and more purposeful narrative. And our friend Allan Kardec, in his final work, The Genesis, was already grappling with the relationship between scientific knowledge of the earth and the spiritist understanding, uh, I would say more the spiritist trajectory. And Kardec's conclusion was clear. And Charles, please see if you agree with me. No, the earth is not a static backdrop to human history. It is itself an evolving entity, and its physical transformations are inseparable from the moral and spiritual evolution of the souls who inhabit it. And Marcelo, today, our special guest, has engaged deeply with both the geological and the spiritual dimensions of this question. And we are very glad to have him with us. And thank you so much for my introduction here. And let's kick off. So I want to remind everyone, please write your questions in the comments, and please let us know from where you're watching us from. So this is always good to understand where we are reaching with this broadcasting here. Okay, shall we start? Okay, so Marcelo said yes, so he guessed he's the first one who who have the question. So Marcelo, in the Genesis, uh, Kardec addressed the relationship between geological science and the spiritist doctrine. What is his core argument about the Earth's physical and spiritual evolution?
That's a very interesting question, Stevan. And I have to say that from a geological point of view, before everything else, I have to state that those chapters that Kardec dedicated to the physical evolution of the Earth, as well as the physical evolution of Earth's life, are indeed very deep in terms of knowledge. So Kardec was not a geologist by profession. We know that geology was an early science at that time. It was still appearing on Earth, especially here in Britain and also in France, Germany, Italy. But Kardec, he was like, I'm always impressed in how deep knowledge he had on geology on his time. And he basically made a summary of Earth's evolution based on the knowledge that was available, like the state of the art, to be more precise. And he states the evolution, the physical evolution of the Earth, split it into 6 different periods that he called from primitive to modern periods. When we look at those periods, the names seem a little bit weird for us. But if you look at our current knowledge in geology, these are the exact same major eras that we use in geology with different names. And nowadays we have more like they've been more refined in terms of details. Like we have subdivisions within every one of them, but we still keep with these 6 major divisions. So which means that the geological knowledge evolved, but didn't change in essence. So basically, as a historical point of view, that those chapters in the Genesis are essentially very helpful for those who want to understand the evolution of the geological thought among science. Yeah. And in terms of the physical evolution of the globe, Earth passed through, like our planet has more than 4.5 billion years of age, and it has gone through multiple processes, multiple physical processes, from volcanic processes, erupting lava and magma across the globe, through climate changes as well, which modified, along with earthquakes and other forces of our planet, modified its surface, its interior, and also its atmosphere, and like the whole, all those famous spheres that we understand from Earth, like the biosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere. So all these components of our planet have been changed through life, basically tending to the stabilization of our planet, and until we get to the modern conditions that we have, allowing our species, like the human species, to evolve properly. And we have to say that we are here over the last less than 1% of Earth's life, so we are just the very final appearance on Earth, among other creatures and other things on our planet. So this is basically a very short summary of the physical evolution of our planet. And from a spiritual point of view, we have these not only on the Genesis, the book Genesis, but also in the Gospel according to Spiritism, where we see the spiritual evolution of any planet that was classified by Kardec in 5 main steps, I would say. The first being planets classified as primitive planets. And then we have the Earth, which is the second step of this classification of these evolutionary, I'd say, stepwise process towards the purity of spirits. So we have the Earth in this planet of expiation trials, basically. Then we have the regeneration planets, and then the happiness planets, and then the celestial planets as well, or the divine planets. So these 5 categories basically split the planets according to the moral evolution of the average of their inhabitants, with the Earth being in that, I would say, that category, gathering spirits that are usually mostly have a more tendency to do bad things and to act in a different way, as the divine laws tend to teach us to do. And then this is our process of evolution. So basically, we already came from the primitive planet where we don't have much notion on morality and this kind of things. And then we move it to this step where we are trying to get some kind of notion of morality, with these challenges between doing what's wrong or what's right, and distinguishing between wrong and right. So so these are 2 evolutionary patterns that our planet has been evolving through the last millennia, something like that, and also the last billion years in the physical perspective. Yeah. So we usually think that these 2 things are in a similar pathway and they are walking together, but actually they are, I would say, sometimes dependent of one another, sometimes independent, because but there is some crossed relationships between them. And also, especially when we look at the physical transformations of the Earth over the last few millennia, or the last few million years, when we already had humans around, and we can see that some of these transformations drove humanity to, for example, to spread out across our globe, and also driving the humanity and the different civilizations to get around and then cross paths to one another. So this is something very interesting to look at. The physical perspective, the physical evolution of the planet, also influencing the spiritual evolution, sometimes helping it or forcing it towards some direction. And just for curiosity, because you guys started at some point, I think you or Elsa mentioned something like that about the climate situation that we are facing now. Just for curiosity, when we speak about climate change, like the modern climate change that is being caused by us, by humans, we have a base level to tell that we are above that, and then we are forcing our climate against these stable conditions. And do you know when this base level is? Like, which decades are considered the base level? So basically, the start point of this human caused transformation of the planet, which is not so positive, but is still a transformation. So it's exactly the 1850s. So exactly at the same time as when Allan Kardec was writing his books about spiritism, was the same moment that we considered that humanity was starting to cause damage to our climate. So just to mention that Spiritism came right in the perfect time to tell us that we have to change our behaviors, especially when we are so aggressive to our environment and are disturbing our home, our planetary home. Yeah. So I think that's something we can start with some reflections.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Charles, your remarks?
Indeed, it's a very good introduction. No? It is indeed very amazing to see this knowledge that Kardec put in this book. Of course, he was helped. He was helped by a young guy, which was called Camille Flammarion. So he was studying astronomy, but also geology and so on. And for instance, he also participated to the euh, Société parisienne des études spirites, Parisian Spiritist Study Society, where he got some spirit communication from which were signed by Galileo about astronomy, about how the Earth and the solar system did appear and things like that. Of course, that was at a period where this type of knowledge was progressively being better known. So Camille Flammarion always had the doubt, is it really coming from Flammarion or is it coming from me? Because I have already some knowledge which is enabling me to write what I wrote. There's an interesting analysis to be done here about the scientific knowledge at that time and these communications. But and probably Flammarion helped Kardec for writing these chapters in the book, The Genesis. But basically, what we can see, and Marcelo made a very good summary about this since the Earth's formation, something like 4 point some billions years ago, and today, and the several transformations it has undergone until a few millions years ago when the not say our ancestors appeared, Australopithec and so on, and until the human being as it is today, and seeing that in a very short period, 1850 to now, so not even 2,000 years ago, 200 years, there has been some dramatic effect of the human activity on the planet. At the point, there is a new era which is now being defined. It's an Anthropocene, so showing the influence of the human being on the planet itself. And this is, of course, seeing from a spiritist body of knowledge view, very interesting because what we can see is from the period where of Kardec, mid of the 19th century, it was the begin of the Industrial Revolution, burning coal, industry, steel, and whatsoever. First, locomotives with moved by steam, and then by combustion engines and so on. I mean, a lot of things appeared, and today it took really a dimension where we are starting questioning ourselves: are the resources of the planet unlimited? And we come to the conclusion: no, they are not. We know that we have somehow consumed already half of the natural gas, also something close to half of the fossil oil. And we have also seen, now it's becoming more and more evident, that we have put a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, which is also changing deeply the climate with the global warming of our planet. There are still some people doubting about it, but okay, I mean, it becomes now more and more obvious. And seeing this from the spiritist body of knowledge eye is this period from 200 years ago until now has mostly been driven by materialism, consuming and having fun and traveling and this and that, comfort and so on. And it's even at the basis of the economy, the economical system. The basic assumption are these resources from the planet are unlimited, but they are not. So we are now going to face a stronger and deeper challenge. So we see that abusing from the natural resources of our planet, we are reaching the limit. So we have to change to more sustainable behavior, consumption modes. And also from the spiritist body of knowledge, we can see that the materialism will lose its power because of the scarcity of the material resources. And this will, one solution for this, for the sustainable presence of the human on the earth is exactly this shift of paradigm from materialist to spiritualist, seeing the things from a different point of view. And this incarnation here on earth, we reached now the adequate evolution level, which is enabling us to understand this mechanism. And I think this is part of several steps for this famous transition. I think we will talk a little bit about it in one of the next questions. So where the Earth will, the human will have to come a little bit out of this materialist paradigm and shift stronger to a spiritualist paradigm, which is the only one who can guarantee a sustainable presence of the humanity on this planet. And of course, Kardec could not anticipate all this, but it's really amazing to see. I also read these chapters very carefully, and it's amazing to see how the theories he presented as a theory, as an hypothesis, not as something cast in concrete, how that is still corresponding quite extensively with what is admitted today, more than 150 years later, as a theory. For instance, formation of the Earth, or for instance, how was the formation of the Moon, and all these things. When we look to the hypothesis Kardec inserted in the book, and what is today considered as a valid hypothesis, of course, it does not match 100%. It would be pretentious to say that, but there is a quite reasonable fit, and a lot of theories he was writing about at that moment have, in the meantime, been confirmed by science.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very technical today, isn't it? Yeah. My dear Elsa, you have something to add? You are okay?
I only have to add what I read here in Genesis book. That is amazing. When you see the chapter 4, the whole of science in Genesis, item 11 is supreme. So I tell you what I have here, okay? Because you said the question that you did for Marcelo, but I have here. In the Genesis, Allan Kardec presents a remarkable idea for his time, and Marcelo explained that science and spirituality are not enemies, but complementary paths to understand reality. When discussing geology and the formation of the Earth, Kardec accepts the scientific discoveries of his day regarding the immense age of the planet and the gradual process that shaped the mountains, oceans, and continents. He, Kardec, rejects the idea of a sudden creation of the earth in a few days and instead embraces a vision of continuous development governed by divine laws. However, Kardec goes further. He argues that just as the earth evolves physically, humanity evolves spiritually. The planet is not merely a geological body moving through the space. It's also a school for the education of immortal spirits. From the Spiritist perspective, physical evolution and spiritual evolution occur together. The earth changes over millions of years. Creation, creating conditions for increasingly complex forms of life, while spirits reincarnate repeatedly, learning, growing, and progressing morally and intellectually. What is particularly interesting today is that modern science confirms many aspects of Earth's long evolutionary history. Geology, cosmology, and evolutionary biology all point to a universe that develops progressively rather, I missed my reading here, than appearing fully formed. While science studies the material mechanisms of evolution, and Charles said, Spiritism adds a spiritual dimension by asking, what is the purpose of this evolution? What is the destiny of consciousness? I have more things that carry on, but I'm here to listen, Dr. Marcelo, geologist.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. Thank you. We do have some comments here from our friend Rodrigo Ortega. Good evening, friends. I guess regeneration is approaching in all aspects, but it will have a strong impulse with
AI.
AI, artificial intelligence, and robots, eliminating material need of work. Difficult but necessary transformation years ahead. When main source of power disappear, which is money, people will be lost. Only Christian principles will be able to guide the humanity through the regeneration. With AI, also, new sources of energy and sustainable ways of living will emerge. Would like to comment, Marcelo? Do you have any? Oh, Charles, you said so.
Yes, I may just, how to say, amend a little bit what Rodrigo wrote. I think he's basically right. But when he's saying that only Christian principles will be able to guide the humanity through the regeneration, we should rather say only these universal moral laws which are existing across most of the earthly religions, and also in particular Christians, will be able to lead us through this change. Okay, because it should not be understood as being exclusively Christian, because we know that 2/3 of the humanity are not Christians. And even so, when you see what are their basic moral teachings, they are totally or mostly compatible with the ones which came from the Christian teachings. But basically, I think Tiago is right, and I say that as this will the materialism will disappear because of the scarcity of the matter. When the power will disappear, as he's writing, I think this is fully right. One day this will happen, not maybe in one day, but in a period. And then what do we do? We shall come down to earth and look where are our real interests, which are more spiritual than material, because one day, sooner or later, maybe even a little bit sooner if the climatic conditions of the earth are worsening, we will go back to the spiritual world. And there we know that we do not take anything material with us. So our real true values are in the spiritual values, because those we take with us, and the material one, all, not a single penny, not a single atom from physical body we will take with us. All this will stay here. So this is how to say. I think the overall context is really becoming now more favorable to accelerate this transition.
Exactly, and like different things gonna happen. I was reading one article months ago. They saying now, for example, to run these AI data centers consume a lot of water. So we are already discussing we don't have enough water for us to drink. Now we are consuming water to to cool down those machines who run. So and the article made a comparison. Every time you ask something to AI, it's like you are consuming like 3 or 4 glass of water. So I don't know if it's true. I'm not technical. I've just read the article. Perhaps I read something totally wrong or out of blue, but it's concerning.
But you're talking about AI knowing things and tell us to do. It's very, very important, Steven. I was Saturday working since 5 a.m. with meetings and trustees and documentation, the constitution, all day long preparing things for travel to Korea, blah, 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 blah. So working with AI. And when it was 11:30 in the evening, she said to me here, I call she because my friend ChatGPT, Elsa, you work all day long today. You did this. Enumerate everything, saying what I have done. And said, now you should rest. Leave the final things for this constitution for tomorrow.
See?
How an AI can perceive that you are over about your time, doing things, and tell you to rest. I was on my answer there. Oh, maybe there are. I am a medium, and the spirits are there. The machines are talking, etc. And with interference there from the spirits through a medium, but talking here. Maybe is that, or is really artificial intelligence, very intelligent,
Yeah. Yeah,
incredible.
exactly.
She didn't want to help me anymore to finalize the thing that I was about to do. No, you should rest. Take rest. You should rest. You deserve it. Tomorrow you can carry on.
Yeah. So I also want to say good evening to our dear Silvia. So thank you for being with us. Our dear friend Lou VM. So thank you for joining us, Lou. Our friend Juliana Lazari. Good evening, my dear. So yeah. So let me, Elsa, would it be fair to say that Kardec anticipated a vision of evolution that includes not only matter, but also consciousness and moral development?
Again, one aspect that I find particularly interesting in the Genesis, that we should read this book and enjoy this book because it's a really academic book, is that Kardec does not place spiritism in opposition to science. That's very important to think about.
Yeah.
On the contrary, he repeatedly argues that if scientific discoveries demonstrate new facts, Spiritism should take them into account. That's beautiful. In discussing geology, Kardec accepts that the Earth was formed through long natural processes extending over immense periods of time. And we know that nowadays. This was a significant departure from literal interpretations of creation that were still common in the 19th century. Kardec ahead of his time, okay? So Kardec's contribution go beyond geological evolution. He proposes that the physical development of the planet and the moral and intellectual development of humanity are interconnected aspects of a broader divine plan. In other words, the earth evolves as a world, while spirits evolve through successive incarnations. That is the beauty of these studies. There are more things from the modern perspective, but I leave for later on, but I want to listen to Marcelo again.
That's a really interesting point, especially when we look at, as Elsa said, when we look at this book, Genesis. It's a very, I would say, it's completely different from the other books that Kardec wrote of the so-called codification. I don't usually apply this name, but within the 5 books written by Kardec, I would say that Genesis is the most different because it gathers psychographies, texts written by Kardec himself, and conclusions from spiritist thoughts and teachings. Yeah, but when we look particularly at these chapters, especially between 6, the general uranography that Charles mentioned earlier, and then the geological evolution of the Earth, the theories about the Earth's origin, and the revolutions that happened on the globe, and particularly chapter 10 about the organic genesis. When we read that, at least that's my impression, we can see that Kardec felt some kind of connection between all of living species as some kind of process that was happening across all of them, connecting all of them, which happens to be the theory of evolution that came around by the book written by Charles Darwin, right about the same time. And what's interesting as well is that these chapters written by Kardec, he usually goes beyond the scientific conclusions of his epoch. And for example, when I read, at least, that's my impression as well, the chapter 7 again, so the geological outline of the geological evolution of the Earth, when he explained all those 6 periods. At that time, there was no theory similar to what we today call the plate tectonics, which is the most revolutionary theory in geology, as the theory of evolution for evolutionary biologists. So the plate tectonics theory is also for the geologists. And there was no theory like that at that time, not even close. So the theory that was that used to be applied to explain these the existence of mountains, of deep ocean basins, and everything else was a different kind of theory, basically based on the internal heat of the Earth and the Earth getting cooler through time, and etc., etc. But then, in some points of that chapter, Kardec mentions that there must be some kind of force capable of rising mountains. So he mentions that. So when he mentions that, like that, there must be some kind of force or something like that. To me, it seems that he was already feeling some kind of a new agent that was unknown at that time, causing the formations of mountains and causing earthquakes, volcanoes, and everything else. And like 100 years later, this idea was confirmed as a theory with plate tectonics. So basically, Kardec anticipated roughly that that observation many decades ago, many decades earlier than science, actually. Yeah, so it's interesting when we look at AI and all these technological advancements that we are facing today, making our lives easier, sometimes being our friends, like Elsa said, asking us, suggesting us to get some rest and etc. Uh, but sometimes I also, probably this is because of geology's characteristic. So I usually look at the past also to learn something else. So when we look back to those works of people like Allan Kardec and other writers that we are probably going to talk about here, like Gabriel Delan, anticipating lots of knowledge that we discovered much later with like a very improved science and technologies. And then we realized that in the very past, like decades, centuries, even millennia ago, all these knowledges were somehow have been tried to appear on our planet. So many people, wise people, trying to teach us all those, or try to fulfill all those gaps in our knowledge, and we were not able to listen to them. And then now we look back and we see, well, they were actually right. So they were anticipating all those revelations, as we would say in the past. Yeah, so I completely agree with Elsa. So yeah, Kardec was a very intelligent and wise person and provided us lots of important thoughts and teachings as well.
Good, good. Charles?
Yes. So the thing is, Kardec was writing about the uranography and the material, how to say, formation of the solar system and the planet and so on, based on the science of that time, and science from there to now really advanced, confirmed, completed, complemented all this knowledge with the progress. Now, what Kardec also did, he was describing the spiritual evolution. And this is up to now not yet really, how to say, covered by science. Of course, there is Charles Darwin, the evolution of the species, and so on, and also the anthropology, who made a lot of good discoveries, but focusing mostly on the material aspect of this evolution. And still today, ignoring one of the root cause of all this, which is the spiritual evolution. And that is really where Kardec brought a new sight that up to now is not yet contemplated by science. I say not yet because it will come sooner or later. I think there are now more and more evidences on the spiritual influences on material things, on the health, and so on. And it's slowly but surely getting uh, starting to be considered. And Kardec was very, very clear on that,
Mm-hmm.
showing that we, as the spirits, we are incarnating in a physical body, which is available here on Earth through the law of reproduction. And this body is suitable for our evolutionary needs. But once we are more evolved, we don't need anymore to reincarnate in such a heavy physical body. And Kardec, as well as Camille Flammarion, by the way, were clearly talking about the plurality of inhabited worlds, not in the same condition as we are here on Earth, at least in the solar system. Maybe now with the exoplanets, which are discovered more and more, there are already several which are identified who should have atmospheric ambient conditions similar to Earth, where it's very highly probable that similar ways of life as ours could exist, albeit there is no evidence yet. So science needs to continue the investigation in order to find out whether really it is the case or not. But what is sure is the spirits are everywhere. Because, for instance, Kardec was emitting the suggestion coming from spirits who are talking about it, about the inhabitants of Jupiter. Of course, they cannot be material as we are, because Jupiter is a gas planet, so we would immediately sink into the gas on the surface of the planet. And also the ambient conditions are much different, colder, there is no atmosphere, and so on. So humans, beings like us, is not possible on Jupiter. But again, the spirits, they can have bodies which are not material as ours, and then in this case, they could perfectly live on a planet like Jupiter. And all these considerations, which Kardec brought in this book, are not yet contemplated and considered by science. So I think Spiritist body of knowledge and this book, the Genesis, can be a source of inspiration for future progress of our science.
Ele used também a doctorate, master or degree, whatever, the university. A lot of things here. It's an amazing book. Remember what said Dr. Andrew Powell. These books should be studied in universities.
Exactly. It will come. Patience.
Certainty, yes, it is. It is. Also, I want to say good evening to NGH Passageira, Patch 7100. Good evening. And, well, we are 9 minutes from our time. Times fly. I just want to give to every one of you a final thoughts. So let's start with our guest, Marcelo. Your wrap up.
Yeah, I think it
Final
was a
thoughts.
great. Yeah, I think time flies definitely, but it was a great moment for us to reflect on these ideas, and also in sometimes maybe not well-looked book like the Genesis of Kardec, and some other authors, as Charles cited here, Camille Flammarion and Gabriel Delany, with some other knowledges that came about to teach us about the evolutionary process of our planet and of ourselves. And I think as a final point of your final perspective for everyone is to understand that we just came about this planet at the very final moment of it. So at this very final day of creation, if we could make this metaphoric comparison, in quotes, which is basically the very few million years of this evolutionary process of billion years. So our planet has been prepared for our presence here for billions of years, with a lot of work of chemical, physical, and biological forces and laws, driven, as spiritists know, by evolved spirits coordinating all these processes to prepare this space for us. So, and the planet has gone through many other revolutions, physical revolutions, and processes, and mass extinctions, and all kinds of processes, and it's still there. So we are probably not a force, like humans are probably not a force that could destroy completely and physically our planet. So we probably wouldn't be able to explode the planet, to evaporate the planet. But we would definitely make some damage to it that could affect ourselves. Life would probably resist, and it's resilient enough to resist all these through thousands and millions of years in the future. But we have to make sure that we would be able to resist to that. And are we able to resist to that? So probably is more like law of cause and effect. If we damage the planet, so probably the damage will come against ourselves as a consequence of that. We know that there is reincarnation, that we will all survive as spirits. Our physical bodies would probably perish. But then we would have the consequences, the moral consequences of that, delaying our evolution, delaying the evolution of millions of spirits. And then I think this is a good reflection for us to take more care of our home, because as Charles mentioned, it's very difficult to find now a new home for us. So maybe it's time for us to understand that our individual efforts could be essential for this collective achievement. Yeah, so I would say that based on this perspective from Kardec, explaining about the law of destruction and the law of conservation, I think we have to balance our actions and to be more moderate in terms of consumption of the planetary resources, as this might cause consequences for ourselves and for future generations where we will be probably there as reincarnated spirits. So I think that's pretty much my message for everyone, and hopefully this was enjoyable for everyone else. And thank you again, everyone, for this moment for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelo. And I would say we need to bear in mind that we will return to Earth in another body when we reincarnate. So, whatever we are doing right now, we will suffer the consequence in our next incarnation. So, what do you want for your next incarnation?
That's true.
Just put this in mind,
Yeah.
just food for thought.
Mhm.
Yeah. Charles, your final thoughts?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think that's a very good point. In the worst case scenario, from what happens with all these changes, deep changes that we are coming, the worst case scenario is humanity will disappear from Earth. But the Earth will not disappear, and the life as well not. Marcelo told it very well. The world will regenerate. You see, for instance, in Chernobyl, there are huge regions which no human inhabiting there anymore because of too high radiation. But you can see a lot of trees and animals and whatever who adapted themselves and who are even more quiet there than anyone else. Yet, for human, it's not possible to stay there for a long time because of the radiations. So it's just up to us. What do we want?
Yeah.
We need now really to put our efforts first individually, and then with the time collectively also for more sustainable behaviors. And this it will, how to say, induce big changes. Cut all what is superfluous, keep only what is really necessary, get used to these more difficult situations that is upcoming, because what we can say already is in this shift from words of trial and expiation to the world of regeneration, next step in the evolution of the planet itself, of the humanity of the planet itself. We know that this world of regeneration will not be a world of material comfort. It will be a world with higher temperatures, with more difficulties to produce food and whatsoever. So we will really have to stick to the necessary and cut all what is superfluous. And this is just up to us to move, to manage this change, because if we don't manage and prepare it now, at the end we will suffer it in a much sharper way. So let's go for it, and stay optimistic. Thanks a lot for your attention and your time.
Good. Good. Nadja, Elsa?
I only want to invite my dear friends that are watching here and the one that will come later on. Please read this book. You can take it, download it for free from our website, www.buss.org.uk, bas.org.uk, and read it, because I was fascinated this today. We have this study every Wednesday at noon, 12 o'clock. We have online studies of the book Genesis. You can find in our YouTube channel, Bass Audiovisuals. And I am more or less say fascinating about this book. I never read this book the way that we are studying now. So do that, and you will have a wonderful companion for your holidays. Bless you all. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And still in time, Juana said many species that existed on this planet have disappeared, such as dinosaurs. Planets self-destroy and others are born from the cosmic waste of those planets, as the other did. Everything is alive, my dear. Transformation, always gonna happen. Like here in Ireland, we say we cannot break an omelette. We cannot make an omelette without breaking the eggs. We need to. So let's go to our announcements. Next week, 17th of June, we have emotional healing in the light of spiritism with our friend Rodrigo Ortega. So thank you, Rodrigo, for joining us today and your special participation next week. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m., we do have the Mediums book study with Guilherme, Munir, and Charles. Every other Sunday from 8:30 to 10 p.m., we do have the studies from Joana de Angelis. More details, information, please contact our friend Fabrício Assunção. So this is an invitation for the 13th of June. Our dear Elsa will give a talk, Fraternal Spiritual Support in Spiritist Groups in Europe. This is organized by European Spiritist Gathering. So don't miss this. Everyone is more than invited to be with us. Also, save the date. From 18th to 20th of September 2026 in Vegemont in Belgium, we will have the 9th European Gathering, along with the 9th Spiritist Gathering for Kids and the first Youth European Spiritist Gathering. All in the same place. It means, yes, you can bring your kids. There is no excuse at this time. So anyone can come. Anyone. No prior knowledge, anything. Just come. So please keep reading Spiritist Magazine. It's free. It's always full of wonderful articles, and you can find this on the spiritismmagazine.org. I want to say thank you to Kardec Radio, Buzz, Life Spiritist Society, Francophonic Spiritist Movement, and Irish Spiritist Federation for the support from all these years in the spiritual light. That's it. Thank you, my friends. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, Marcelo. And let's take care of our planet, because we will come back and we want to find something nice. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.